Books, books, and more books. What are some of your favorite books and the books that you found to be the most life changing? Hello, this is Anna Laura Brown, blogger and podcaster, host of the podcast Autoimmune Rehab. And as somebody who has dealt with autoimmune challenges, gotten into the holistic health world, also dabbled around with different forms of sales and entrepreneurship, different things like that, and also a strong Christian woman, I have some of my general good ideas about what I consider to be the most top life changing books that I feel like everybody needs to read. And I have a list of 29 of those. Now, that said, I am actually not going to include things like the Bible or other scriptures or other direct church or faith filled books on this list because I feel like those should be pretty obvious and a given. So instead, I'm going to talk with you about 29 life changing books that can really help you to achieve your goals, whether they're financial, health, or whatever else it is that you need, help you change your mindset, help you improve your health, that kind of thing. So let's get started. So the first one is the classic book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Let's face it, everybody needs to read that book to help you with your money mindset, to help you realize that yes, thoughts are things, and what you think can really have an impact on how much money you have, how much money you spend, how you manage your money, all that kind of thing. So a really good classic book. If you haven't read it already, you really should. Again, that's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Okay, number 2, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This book became really popular a couple years ago when the Netflix documentary with the same title, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, came out. It was a really good documentary. I highly recommend you watch it if you get a chance. I've been following him along ever since. He also has an accompanying journal called I Will Think You to Be Rich that really just requires you to think a lot about, do you want to be rich and why? And what does it mean to live a rich life? And you journal about those, and it helps you really think about, where's your money going and where do you want your money to go in the future. So I highly, highly recommend that book, and especially the journal, actually, more than even the book. But you really need to read the book in order to really understand, how the journal works, all that kind of thing. Okay, then number 3, Atomic Habits. Now, Atomic Habits, I don't know if you know this, but Atomic Habits outsold all books, including the Bible, a couple years ago, being the number 1 best-selling book on Amazon and really, I think, worldwide, for many good reasons. So this book talks all about the habits that we create, why we create those habits, what you can do to create and generate new habits, and so forth. So a really good book. If you haven't read that, highly recommend it. Atomic Habits. The number 4 is one of the few books that I actually own in physical. So I've gotten to the point where I've quit buying a lot of physical books and basically only have a lot of them in Kindle. So as a result, I'm not really able to show you what the book actually looks like because I don't have the physical books. But this is a book, and I actually have it signed by Immaculée, but it's called Left to Tell, Discovering God Amidst the Rwandan Holocaust by Immaculée Ilabizia, I think, and she survived the Rwandan Holocaust that happened in the 1990s, and I had the privilege of hearing her come and talk in person, and it was just really almost a sacred experience. It's a really good book. I highly recommend it. If you feel like your life is hard, just wait till you read that book, and you'll find out your life isn't really that hard after all. Then the next one is another really classic book to help you with your goal setting and things like that, and it is The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Now, this is the workbook. I have on Kindle version the actual Success Principles book. Highly recommend that you get both the book and the workbook and you work through those. Jack Canfield has a lot of other books. He's also written a lot of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. I don't have any of those books on this list just because I had to be limited to 29 books. But at the end of the day, Jack Canfield's really written a lot of good books, but the Success Principles really tops it and can really help you understand the principles behind goal setting and achieving success and all that kind of thing. Okay, then Number 6, The Power of Positive Thinking. Now, obviously, this is a really popular book. This is a classic from, years back. I think it was written in, if I remember right, the 1940s, 1950s. But anyhow, The Power of Positive Thinking by Vincent Peale. And this book really helps you to develop a positive mindset and to understand the importance that thoughts are things and how you think really impacts your overall mindset. So another must read in my opinion. Then number 7, The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. Now this book really helps you to visualize the picture and the power of your mind and the ability to really think big and not think small, because the reality is that too many of us get stuck in a rut and we're just thinking too small. We're not thinking big, and helps us realize the magic of what can happen in your life when you actually start thinking big. Okay, number 8, The 12-Week Year. Now this book is a fairly newer-ish book. It's one of the books on this list that has come out within about the last 5 or 6 years. I can't remember exactly when it came out. But what this book does is it helps break down habits and ideas for how to accomplish what most people would take a whole year to accomplish in the course of 12 weeks. So, it has workbooks, activities, different things like that to help you get started with that. So again, another really good book, The 12-Week Year. Okay, then the next book is called Think This, Not That by Dr. Josh Axe. Now, this is the only book by Dr. Axe that I actually put on this list, but he's written several other books that I consider to be really good, like Eat Dirt is another classic one. But his book, Think This, Not That, is more of a mindset book about how you view your life, how you view your health, has an accompanied workbook and things like that for you to go through and tell you on how to reform and reshape your life and your health based on your thoughts. Then the next one is called Believe It by Jamie Kern Lima. And Jamie Kern Lima was the founder of a skincare product designed specifically to help women with rosacea. And her company, she built it to the point that it actually got bought out by one of the larger skincare companies. I think if I remember right, it was, I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it was one of the name brand skincare companies that brought out her product. And she talks all about the belief that she had in herself and in her product, some of the different challenges, things that she went through trying to market that product. So another really good book, especially if you are trying to market and sell something, but even if you aren't, another really good book. Then the next one on here, probably one of the better books about money and how to master your money, although there's several good ones on here, is Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. Now, Tony Robbins is another author that's written a lot of really good books that can help be really life-changing and really impactful, but Money Master the Game is probably one of the better ones. Then moving on here, the next book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Now, Louise Hay died a couple years ago, but her books and her works are still live on, and they're really amazing. And this book all about helping you realize that you really can heal yourself. And this is a lot of what I try to hit home on my Autoimmune Rehab podcast, what I try to tell a lot of people that I work with, people I talk to who feel like they have health issues that they aren't sure they can overcome, is that you really can heal your life and you really can go into remission and you really can thrive despite whatever kind of diagnosis you've been given. Next one is called How to Make Disease Disappear by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. Now, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee is actually a general family doctor from the UK, and this is, I believe, his first book. He has some other books as well, and again, like a lot of these authors, they have several really good books. I only put one book on the list, but this book is all about how to develop the common principles of good health that can help literally make any disease disappear. And if you're wondering how to get started with your healing, how to wonder what kinds of principles, things you should embrace to really overcome health challenges and literally make your disease disappear, then this is the book you want to read. Moving on, the next one is called The Power of Primary Food by Joshua Rosenthal. Now, Joshua Rosenthal is the founder of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, otherwise known as IIN. This is a health coaching certification program that I went to, and he's written a couple of really good books, but this book is especially good because it talks all about how what he considers primary food is all the other aspects of your life that control and impact your health that are not food. And he considers food itself to be your secondary food and talks all about the power of that and why and how all these other aspects rule your life. And that was originally one of the concepts behind when I started my podcast, was to talk not just about food, although we do now talk about food and diet and things like that because those episodes are pretty popular and really powerful to help with healing from an autoimmune condition, but recognizing the other things that control your health is really important as well. The next one on this list is called Your Time to Thrive by Arianna Huffington. If you've ever heard of the Huffington Post, yes, Arianna Huffington is the founder of the Huffington Post. And this book is all about learning how to thrive, how to embrace your self-esteem, how to prioritize self-care and everything else, which some other really important things. So another really good book. Then the next one on this list is a book that I became aware of because I actually interviewed the author right as the book was coming out on my podcast, probably about 2 years ago. And this is the book Chronic Pain Reset by Dr. Afton Hassett. Dr. Hassett is actually a chronic pain researcher and psychologist at University of Michigan. And she wrote this book all about how to reset and reimagine chronic pain, primarily by using your mind and psychology principles to do it. And it's a really good, fascinating book. And if you are dealing with chronic pain or really any kind of pain, this book is a really must read. Next book is another one of the many books written by Noah St. John, the book of affirmations. Now, if you have ever tried to create affirmations, if you've ever tried to create statements, say them out loud or read them out loud and then try to make yourself believe them, that you've probably discovered that it can be easier said than done. In his book, the book of affirmations is a word that Noah St. John made up. He talks all about and gives you examples of how to ask why behind something. Because the reality is, if you can't just sit there and say, I am rich, or I am earning $200,000 this year. You need to ask yourself, why am I earning $200,000 this year? And then just keep asking why, and really delve down to that. And Affirmations is a book that teaches you about how to create statements based around whys and questions, and how to ask your brain why or how you're doing something, and help you actually achieve it rather than just saying that you are it, and your brain doesn't really believe that you are, so it rejects the whole idea. The next book is called Unstoppable Women by Cynthia Kersey. Now, this is another book that talks all about women who have overcome really amazing things. In fact, hardships that a lot of us would just consider, well, let's just give up because that happened to us. And so it's all about the stories of these women and all about what they did to overcome it and how you can overcome it too. So if you're really looking to be really inspired and to really learn from some women that have really overcome some very severe and very hard things, then this book is for you. The next book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Now, you've probably heard of this book, and this is something that's really, really important in all aspects of your life, because if you don't know the why behind anything, you won't likely do it. And this includes whether it's motivating you to change your health, change your finances, career, whatever, you have to know why. And Simon Sinek, in his book Start With Why, explains how to develop that why, how to find that why, all that kind of stuff. Then the next book is a really good book called Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. And in this book, she talks all about the concept of growing up, about how everything in your life or every problem that you've got can be solved and you can figure it out, and there is a way. And she talks all about how to do that in this book, Everything is Figureoutable. The next book is another really classic. This is another one where there's an author that's written lots and lots of books, and ironically, this is one of his books that is maybe a little bit less known, but I still feel like it's really good and really powerful, and this is the book First Things First by Stephen Covey. Now, you've probably heard of his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's another really good book. I highly recommend it. But his First Things First book talks about knowing the first things that you really should do and then doing them first, and leans similar on some of the principles from his book on the 7 Habits, but, is a little bit different. Like I said, a little bit less known, but I feel like that book is really impactful as well. The next one, The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. Now, this book became popular because Randy Pausch was a teacher, a professor, I believe it was at Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a little while since I've read this book, and I probably need to reread it. But he gave a lecture that he filmed and put up on YouTube that went viral after he had terminal cancer, and was all about living a legacy and a lot of the things that he felt like he was leaving behind for his family and different things like that. And then this book was written and based on that video of the last lecture. The next one is a book for people who's really ideal if you are really struggling to figure out what you want to do with your life. You know, you might even be in your 50s and still haven't figured out what your ideal career or job is. And this book is called From Paycheck to Purpose by Ken Coleman. Now, Ken Coleman is a Dave Ramsey personality. He's written a lot of other really good books. He's personally one of my favorites. And in this book, he talks all about how to figure out how to have a job that really offers you purpose and meaning and not just a job you go to just because you need the money. So, you know, if you're struggling with career, job decisions, that kind of thing, another really good book to read. Then, next book is a sales book, and as somebody who has worked in sales for quite some years, for actually a big chunk of my career now, it's called Go Giver, Sell More by Bob Burg. And this is all about becoming a powerful salesperson by learning how to become a go-giver. So in other words, give more to other people, and in return, they will want to give back to you, and you will be able to sell more. Now, Bob Burg has written a whole series. There's also an original book called Go Givers, but Go Givers Sell More, in my opinion, is one of the better books, and especially if you're in sales. Next one is a classic sales book from probably long time ago, early 1900s, maybe, I don't know if it was 1800s, but called The Great Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. Now, Og Mandino was an author. He's been gone for quite some time now. He wrote several good books, but this is one of the better ones called The Great Salesman in the World. And in my opinion, this book is a must-read even if you're not in sales, because it really talks about a lot of other things that can really impact your life. And the reality is that we're all in sales to some degree. You just may not have that in your actual job title. Okay, then the next one is a really good inspirational book, and this is The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. So this is a faith-based book talking about all about how to have a purpose-driven life, and is in a faith and a spiritual context. And it's a really good book. There's some things in it I don't necessarily agree with 100%. That's just kind of how it is with a lot of these Christian faith-based books. You know, sometimes they have things in it you may not necessarily totally agree with, but there's a lot of really good things in there. So I put it on this list because I feel like it can really help impact you and help you realize why you're here on earth and what your purpose might be. The next one is by John Maxwell, and John Maxwell's another author who's written a lot of books on goals and leadership. I mean, he's especially known for his works on leadership, but it's called Intentional Living by John Maxwell. And this is one of the better books in my opinion, especially if, you know, maybe you're not a CEO or a leader or somebody who really needs to learn a lot about leadership, but you need to develop the habits of living intentionally and understand some things about leadership, then this book is really good. Next one is called Year to Success by Bo Bennett. Now this book follows the model where there's basically a success thought, quote, question, different things like that for each day of the year, and it's all about having a year of success. So, you know, if you're looking for some different motivational, different things for becoming successful, then this book, Year to Success by Bo Bennett, is for you. Then last but not least is the book Jump by Steve Harvey. Now, Steve Harvey has written some really motivational books. You may probably know him as the current host of Family Feud. He's also, you know, been on some other TV shows, comedian, things like that. But he wrote this book all about the importance of jumping and just taking action, and how sometimes in order to get what you really want in life, or to, you know, just develop yourself and to become more successful, you just have to jump. And that may mean leaving behind things that you maybe didn't want to leave behind, things that taking actions that scare you, different things like that, but sometimes you just have to do it. So anyhow, I hope that you found this list helpful. If you have a book that's on here that you've read that happens to be your favorite, we'd love it if you would leave it in the comments below. Let me know if you think about it, or if there's another book that you feel like is super impactful that I didn't mention, if you would leave that in the comments below as well. And please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and follow along for additional video updates. Thanks, and look forward to sharing with you soon on another video.